Hello and welcome. Have you ever stopped to think about the little joint that does all the heavy lifting when you're talking, eating, or even just yawning? I mean, it's working non-stop. Well, today we're going to give that unsung hero some love. We're diving deep into the anatomy of the temporomandibular joint, or as we'll call it, the TMJ. So here's our game plan. We're going to take a guided tour, starting with the basics. What exactly is the TMJ? Then we'll look at the bones that make it up, check out the super important disc that sits between them, see the ligaments that hold it all together, and finally, we'll explore what gives it power and lets it move. Ready? Let's get into it. All right, first things first. What exactly are we talking about here? Let's start with its basic ID card, its fundamental classification in the world of anatomy. Okay, so on paper, the TMJ is a synovial joint of the condylar variety. Sounds complicated, right? But all it really means is that this isn't your average joint. It's got this special fluid inside that lets it move super smoothly, and its unique shape allows for all sorts of complex movements. It's way more advanced than a simple hinge like your knee. It can glide and pivot all at once. Now that we know what type of joint it is, let's look at its foundation, the actual bones. You know, every joint is basically a meeting point for two or more bones, and the TMJ is no different. So here's that meeting point. The top part comes from the temporal bone, that's part of your skull. The bottom part is a lot simpler. It's just the head of your jawbone, your mandible. It's how these two very different surfaces come together and interact that makes all the magic happen. And here's a really cool detail, something that makes the TMJ extra special. See, most of the joints in your body are lined with a slick, glassy type of cartilage, but not this one. The TMJ is covered in something called fibrocartilage, which is way tougher and more durable. And it has to be, right? Think about all the pressure from chewing and talking it handles, day in and day out. It's built to last. So we've got these two tough bones. What sits between them to stop them from grinding on each other? Well, that's where this next part comes in. Let's talk about the articular disc. You can think of it as the joint's own little personal cushion. Now, this little disc is an absolute powerhouse. First, it's a shock absorber for every single bite you take. Second, it's what prevents that awful bone-on-bone friction. And third, it helps stabilize your jaw, keeping it right where it needs to be. Honestly, without this disc, eating would be a very noisy and painful experience. And get this is a real piece of brilliant biological engineering. This one tiny disc actually splits the joint into two separate sections, an upper and a lower compartment, and each one does something different. The upper part lets your jaw glide forward and backward, while the lower part lets it hinge open and shut. How cool is that? Okay, so we've got the bones and we've got the cushion, but what keeps this whole setup from just falling apart? That's the job of the ligaments. Think of them like strong, stretchy ropes that hold everything tightly together. The TMJ has four main ligaments holding it in place. You've got the fibrous capsule, the lateral ligament, and then two helpers called the sphenomandibular and stylomandibular ligaments. Let's just quickly meet each one. First up is the fibrous capsule. The easiest way to picture this is as a loose sleeve that's wrapped around the entire joint. Its main job is to keep all that important lubricating fluid in, making sure the whole mechanism is contained and running smoothly. Next is the lateral ligament. This one is a major stabilizer on the side of the joint. Its whole purpose, really, is to act like a safety brake, stopping the jaw from getting pushed too far backward or dislocating. It's pretty much the joint's most important seatbelt. Now for the accessory ligaments, and the first one has a wild origin story. The sphenomandibular ligament is actually a leftover piece of something called Meckel's cartilage, which was a structure that helped form your jaw when you were just an embryo. I mean, just think about that. A little piece of your earliest development is still hanging out in there doing a job today. And the second accessory ligament is the stylomandibular ligament. This one is a real multitasker. It's a thick band of tissue that, besides helping support the jaw, also acts as a perfect little wall, separating two of your major salivary glands. Very clever. All right, we are on the final leg of our tour. We've looked at all the parts, the structure, but what actually powers this thing? What tells it what to do? And what can it really do? It's time to bring this joint to life. Just like any fancy machine, the TMJ needs two things: fuel and instructions. The fuel, which is its blood supply, comes from branches of two main arteries. And the instructions, the signals from the brain, are carried by two key nerves, the auriculotemporal and masseteric nerves.
So, what does all this amazing anatomy actually let you do? Well, it all comes down to four main movements. There's depression, which is just a fancy way of saying opening your mouth, elevation, which is closing it, protrusion, that's when you jut your jaw forward, and finally, retrusion, which is pulling it back in.
So just stop and think about it for a second. This one tiny joint right there in front of your ears performs all these complex movements thousands and thousands of times a day. And you never even have to think about it. Talking, chewing, laughing, it just does it all. When you really break it down, isn't the engineering of the human body just